in that married life now, there's some critical things to understand, because in the married life, it's where children would come to the earth through those two people that had taken that vow. And the people who would show them how to child rear were in fact the grandparents. So depending on the territory or the people that you come from, you would have that set of grandparents actually living in your home. And so the modeling was not necessarily how to be good parents. The modeling was how to become grandparents at a time where you would help your children raise their children. So in society, today when we see many grandparents raising their children, that's natural. What's not natural in that is that we don't often see grandparents living in the home of their children. That used to be natural. So now when we see parents depending on grandparents to raise their children, the parents are usually not there. And that's a change in development in today's society from the old society. Because when you became a parent, you didn't learn how to be a parent. You learned how to be a grandparent. By watching the modeling of that grandparent teach you how to raise those children, how to, again, give that nurturing sound. As they gave it to you, they would give it to the children, their grandchildren. And so the relationship between the infants, the toddlers, the fast life, the good life stage and the fast life stage, that was lent to the old people again. It gave them purpose. And as they were aging in time, and you'll see in the later stages, it'll become clear the purpose that those old people served in the household. So now in this married life, we have been the vessels that brought the children to the earth. And sometimes in a situation where there would be a couple in a village that might not have, be able to have children, usually there was medicines that the old women would know about for those kinds of things. But if a woman was what they called barren, those were the women that in fact would become the child rearers for orphans, for people, their relatives, their children who, for either disease or warring or whatever situation might happen that took that person's life. These would be the couple that would look toward. So in our ways, there was always a way for adoption. So if there was something missing in your life, like a grandparent, you would be able to adopt. And it was a matter of ceremony. And not, that was about as legal as we got. In this part of the stages of life, I want to come back to this feather before I continue, because when we look at this eagle feather, down here the stem is wide. This is the part that comes from life. This is the part that comes from the eagle. It's the actual attachment to where to the flesh of the eagle. And when we dress an eagle feather, we're to put medicines in here. We're to put that good life stuff in here. And this is the channel. When we arrive here in this physical earth, that path is still wide. That path is there's lots of life happening. When we travel up this eagle feather, it's a representation of what all of life has to offer us. So there's this one side of the feather where it comes and you can fall off, it drops. You can fall off your path and not return. But there's also this other side where this feather is bowed up, and the feather it has a curve up because it always is there for Creator to bring us back to life. So So even if we fall off that path, there's a way to get back on. We just have to remember the side that Creator's on. This is a side that we don't want to venture on too much. Each one of these little feather stages is a teaching or a story in life that we can acquire. And sometimes teachings come in those harsh lessons. So this is the part where we could be negative. This is the part that tells us that Creator is always there for us. So usually when we look at the feather on this side, we will see a picture. This is usually all the same color. So this picture here will tell us and guide us. And they say that it takes a very long time for a person to earn even one eagle feather, if we ever even manage to do that in life. To carry one feather from the greatness of that Megasu, that eagle, is very, very important. But you can see in the feather that it also begins to narrow. That path that you're taking, that Creator has for you, becomes finite the older you get. And so once you've been married and you have those children and you have your older relatives living around you, you can now decide on how it is that you're going to care for those children. You have a reason. And today's society, it would be, you have a reason for going to school. You have a reason for developing a career. You have a reason for being outside of the home. And everything's looked after because you have your old people there to look after the children. And so in those reasons, we begin to as adult people, interact and connect with the outer community. So we're doing the work of protecting our village. We're doing the work of learning about the medicines. We have the work of learning about who we are as a people in relation to other territories. We become the negotiators. We become the people who do the trading. We become the people who travel off, who do the hunting and the gathering. All the things that's required to take care of the village. As a hunter, when you go out, one of the things that you do is you put that for example, that four-legged down, and all the village comes, and there's a feast. And every member of that village takes a piece of that meat back to their family, so that it's not an isolated family situation, that the village is looked after by the people who are in the deciding life. And that their work is solely focused on protecting and looking after the community, the old people and the women and the children in that community. And so the adult women are doing the things within the village. The adult men are the ones who are venturing off. And so in that deciding life, it's what someone might call the hard work life. They're actually doing the work of making sure and ensuring that there is a village, that there is a place for the children. Black Elk might say a place where we make our nests, the teepees, a nest of many nests to hatch our children. Because always it's been understood that life that we were given is of utmost importance, and that we never ever do anything in our life to give up what it is Creator's intention. We never move away from Creator's intention. And if we do, there is that village and that community to draw us back. There is that woman community that will sound our child name to pull us back. And for example, my mother can say my name only in that particular way. There is no one else on the earth right now that speaks my name in a particular way, and I become 5. No matter how old I get, my mother is the one that can make me 5 real quick. And I understand that now. And it's not a bad thing. It's that I'm being drawn back to this path. That sound that she makes draws me back to this path. In the deciding life, it's the adults and the parents who make sure and ensure that the village is safe, fed, and protected. And so another way of saying that is it's the hard work life. They decide how they're going to keep their family, their children, their old people, the medicine people. And there'll come a time as they age. They're also the people who are the runners for the old people. They do this, the learning of the ceremonies. This is the deciding life, is also when they're shown which ceremonies they're going to become responsible for, what responsibilities and roles in the village they're going to have beyond that deciding life. So they have mentors. And mentorship is something that's a thread throughout all of the spiral of life, throughout the whole 7 teachings. Mentorship is a very, very critical and important thing. In the villages, we would call them our guides. Those people who are going to guide us through lives, our sponsors. When a young person receives their adult name, there are certain people who decide that they would like to be that child's sponsor. So through the parents, there's a gift given. And so when that person is on this path, up along this area, when the path is beginning to thin and become finite, those are the people that make sure and ensure that young person is staying on that path, that don't drift too far away from that path. And so as one develops the knowledge and the practice of those traditions from the older people, they also will develop into life where their children have grown now. And their children will become the vessels. They will be married, betrothed and married, and become the vessels for those children. And so this person who is moving out of the deciding life now is moving into what we call the busy life. And the busy life is what I alluded to before, is when you become the grandparent. The children of your children become your focus. Nurturing them, looking after them, singing to them, telling them stories. The busy life is helping your child look after the children that they have been the vessel for. And so we're traveling around up in this area now, and you can see that on the feather it gets even thinner, and that the person who is in that busy life, going out and traveling around and doing all those things, they get quieter now. Their movement is not as far-ranging. Their movement is around the children. They come back to that teepee, and their job is to look after and make sure that the safety of those children are there. And there's a very important reason why children are significant to grandparents. Grandparents need to know that they're needed. And the responsibility of looking after the children identifies that need. It gives them a purpose for living, for staying here on the earth. It's a belief that many people have that tells us that there is going to be a long life for a person who has many children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. And so when a person is needed, their potential is needed, their personal life is important to others, that sense of belonging and being needed extends life. It shows us that there is a reason and a purpose for us being here on the earth. And as the old people develop in their busy life, their skin begins to soften because they're not out there in the weather. They're not out there in that hard life journey anymore. Their skin begins to soften, just like that baby's skin is soft. They begin to lose their sightedness, just like that baby's sightedness is not far-ranging and keen. They lose their hair, and their hair becomes tuft-like, just like that baby's hair. They become more dependent on the people who are in the deciding life to nurture them and look after them. And pretty soon, that busy life gets calmer and calmer and calmer, and they then become the people who are responsible for being in that teaching life, and that's up here. And that path is very, very finite. These laws, the teachings, the ceremonies, the way in which we do things on the earth becomes their sole responsibility. Because here, many of the elders have told me this is our borrowed time. That after they reach 75, which is supposed to be what this life is, 75 years on the earth, this is what is supposed to be the teaching life. We know today that age might be a little bit wavered because of how we live our lives today, how fast things are today. But in here, this teaching life has been given to some people earlier than what it might have been given long ago, because our teachings are being lost. But in here, this teaching life was pretty much focused on what we would call the white hair time, when a person's hair had gone all white, and that they were much slower in their time now. And these were often our holy people, what we would consider our keepers of knowledge, bundle carriers, or keepers of ceremony. We see many things happening in today's life that's different than that picture. And I've also been given to understand that the life that we have today is far different than the simpler, slower life that we had back then. And so because of the speeding up of things and the loss of the prophecies and the dreams and the stories, many people have learned those fast and learned them quick, and have been given responsibilities far sooner than others in older times, because it's very critical that we hang on to these things, that we keep picking up what our old people left by the trail. Because in this eagle feather, the one thing that's different about this eagle feather than any other feather of the bird world, the winged world we would call, is this hair that's the tip of this feather. And this finite hair is perceived to be what an old man once called to me the silver thread of life. And it's our connection to the spirit world. And this feather that comes off the tip is that extension of when we leave this earth, that silver thread, the sound that we have made, will in fact resonate, go through creators back to the children that are coming here again. So those teachings, in fact, as we travel this feather path, those 7 stages of life that God gave us, that Creator gave us, will never be lost. And that even though this hair that's on the tip of the eagle feather, that person enters the spirit world. They leave this earth. It doesn't mean that their work is finished. There is nothing finite. We who are here, remaining on this physical world, must give them the time to travel, the time to be in that spirit world with the intention that Creator has for their work over there. We must do everything in our power to understand that when that person leaves this earth, they are not leaving us. And it's been understood by people who are still on this earth through dreams and through visions, that those people who are on the other side cannot help us do our work if we're not doing our work. It's been spoken through dreams and visions, to me at least, that those who could be our helpers cannot help us or come near us if we're not living Creator's plan. And so that life becomes full circle, is that in life we have guides, sponsors, nurturers, helpers, physically to do the work that's here on the earth. But what's of utmost importance for our people to understand is that we have that spirit life where our relatives watch what we do. And when we do what Creator has planned for us, they smile and they are happy.
Miigwech Myra for sharing with us today. I'm sure that as you listened to this teaching, many of your own personal reflections came to mind. Please refer back to our WebCT portion of this course for activities and assignments pertaining to this video. And until next time, Ekwase.